So Omri, I mean,
Yeah.
the one question I have for you is tell us where this journey began for you, because you know it's hard to tell where someone comes from just by their public front-facing image. But where did the musical journey start for you? Like, did you were you always a musician? Were you just led into this path? Where did the musical journey start, and how did you arrive at the place you are today?
All right, so it started in high school. There's a story I have to tell. I told it already 1,000 times maybe, but it's sort of important for this. So in high school, two friends of mine wanted me to join their bands. One was a bass player, the other one was a guitar player, and they told me they want me to join their band. I was not playing anything at the time, so I told them I will be your crazy synthesizer guy. Now, at the time, I didn't know anything about all what I knew is from pictures and videos and stuff like this.
And this is in Germany, correct? This is in Germany?
No. This is not in Germany, no. I moved to Germany just in 2012. But
oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But then they said, no, you will be our drummer. So I said, yeah, sure. I don't care. So I started learning the drums. And actually, it was great because I fell in love with the drums. In my opinion, I'm still a drummer at soul. It's I fell in love with it. Yeah, for sure. I learned or studied the drums a few years with a private teacher, and we had a band. It was called Pancake. It was a punk band, a punk rock band.
Nice. We gotta look that one up.
In high school, and I started out as a drummer. But it's interesting because back, I'm not so sure. I mean, it was a long time ago. I was 15. I was 16 maybe, and I'm not so sure why I said it, like I want to be your crazy synthesizer guy, but it's funny how things came to what they are now. But I started out as a drummer, basically. And then slowly, curiosity and stuff like this, I picked up the guitar a bit. And then at some point, I started listening also to electronic music. It was psytrance back then. If it was Infected Mushroom, Asterix, Skazi, all stuff like this. But basically psytrance, going to parties, nature parties, it is in the desert and stuff.
Yeah. Around what year was this? Early 2000s, late 90s?
Yeah. 2005, 2006 maybe. When I started with electronic music. And I gave my best also to try and produce also psytrance. It was really bad. I still have a few tracks that I saved. By the way, I sent also one to Dash Glitch.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He liked it, but I know it's really bad. I mean, really awful. I worked with Cubase back then, mostly with samples also. But then at one point, I wanted to learn a bit more, and I found like electronic music production and sound design course, like a year or something like this. And I started there, and there was a section where they showed us like the modular environment in Reactor. And I didn't understand anything. They spoke about clock and what clock, who cares about the clock? Let me just make sound. I mean, I didn't understand anything. But somehow, after, I'm sorry that I'm jumping ahead a bit, but after discovering VCV Rec and the modular environment, everything slowly came back to me. So it's interesting, like how it somewhat or somehow stayed inside me, all this stuff that they showed us. With in the modular there in Reactor. But then at some point, I mean, I'm going really quickly, of course, there's many things happen in between, but at some point I felt like I couldn't take it anymore with electronic music. Back then I didn't really know why. Now I think I understand, but back then I didn't know why, but I couldn't do this anymore. It was just not fun anymore. And I found myself in classical music. And
Really?
Wow.
Yes, and I dived really deeply into classical music. I started even playing the piano. I even one time, so I used to work in a record store, which was quite unique because it was inside a concert hall, and we specialized in classical music. So we had not only, but mostly classical music there to sell. And one day I had a shift there, and during the break I went to a musical instrument store, and I came back with a cello.
Wow, that's not the one I'd expect you to come back with.
I decided that I want to play the cello, and I did for a bit. You know, I learned it. Back then there was already YouTube.
It's such a beautiful instrument. Cello has just a deep resonance to it. I love it.
Yeah, and also you hug when you play it. You have to hug it. You know, you're holding it really closely to you, and you feel the resonance and everything. It's a beautiful instrument. It's like really nice. Also, the register of cello is really like comfortable. It's not like a violin that it's like screaming in your ear.
Right.
Yeah. Your really arm will get strong just from the vibratos alone.
For sure, yeah.
I see him playing and there's like boom, the whole thing. I'm like, wow, that's a workout.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. So then I wow, it's like 5 minutes of the whole story. But then it was classical music. And then at one point, I got introduced to Spongel. Do you know Spongel maybe? Have you heard of Spongel? Rajaram, Simon Posford. It was electronic music like I never heard before. It was not psytrance. It was not four on the floor most of the time. There was a story to it. There was an arc to it. It was, it felt alive. It felt organic.
Yeah.
And the flute. I mean, there's a flute there that was pretty amazing from Rajaram. He used to play the flute in this ensemble or band, if you want to call it. Yeah, and then slowly I came back to electronic music. I decided I want to learn to play the flute. So I got also a flute.
Wow, from the cello to the flute, I would not have expected that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the curiosity, I guess. I don't know. It's
exactly.
Like
you were just searching.
Everything.
Yeah.
I see everything is like an instrument. It's not another tool in my toolbox, I guess, to express myself and to create sound.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then I went back slowly to electronic music. And then at one point, finally, I found out about VCV Rec, and my life changed since then. That's it.
Wow.
After I found out about VCV Rec, there was no going back. That's it. I found my home in the modular environment.
Yeah, that's a question I had for you. So there's so many soft synths out there, right? And most people, and I've kind of figured this out as well, but most people, they try VCV Rec, and it's a deep program. There's a lot to it. There's all these different modules, and you're like, okay, what do I connect together? How does this even work? Yeah. So how did that first one speak to you as opposed to something more simplistic and I guess straightforward, for lack of a better term?
Okay, so remember I told you that I worked with Cubase, and I couldn't deal anymore with making electronic music. It was not fun anymore. And back then, again, I didn't understand why. But now looking back, I knew that it was the DAW. It was the DAW, it was the timeline, it was play, stop, copy, paste, duplicate, cut. There was no flow to it. For me, music has a flow. It exists on the axis of time, right? It moves always with time. And when you always stop, when you spend half an hour looking for a snare or whatever, it was not fun for me. And then when I found out about VCV Rec, and you connect an oscillator to the output and it just plays, you don't hit space, there is no stopping, it's always running, the sequencer is always running, the oscillator is always oscillating. Yeah. There was magic in it for me. And of course it took a lot of time until I understood what's going on. Don't forget that back then it was like the beta 0.3 or something like this. Now we have VCV Rec 2. Back then it was 2017. It was VCV 0.3 beta or something.
Wow, so you were in it that early.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting, wow.
Yeah. And there were not so many modules. I mean, it was not so overwhelming like it is now. And there was not so much information about it online. It was magic. It was new. It was exciting. And it was something that I could directly connect with. Again, this movement of time, the things are always running. I could really connect with it. So I decided that that's it. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to learn. And that's how I want to express myself. And it took a lot of time. And I'm still learning a lot. Every day I'm learning something new. It's a great platform. for learning and experimenting. And that's it. And since then, my life changed for sure.
How did the YouTube channel come about? Was it out of your natural curiosity that you wanted to sort of communicate what you were learning in VCV, or was this always a goal that you had in mind?
So the YouTube channel, it will sound weird, but the YouTube channel is definitely a very selfish thing of me to do, because what I wanted to do is to learn, and I needed an excuse to spend 5-6 hours a day doing this. So YouTube was and is still my excuse to do this, to learn, to experiment, to make alarm sounds, in VCV and stuff like this. And it's just an excuse for me, but it's an excuse also with benefits, because I can share tips and tricks and share my experience and communicate with other people. So it has also like benefits for me. But actually the YouTube started also before VCV Rec. I remember that I started with sampling. So I used Contact. So I started sampling all sorts of weird things and made videos about it. Then back then I just got, how is it called from Native Instruments, the collection?
Complete.
Complete, yeah, I got Complete. Yeah. What was it, 11 or 10? I don't remember anymore. So I started making videos about the different synthesizers there, like Form and stuff like this, which is really cool. But then VCV came along, and that's it. I mean, I deserved everything, and I was really focused on it. And I wanted to learn it, and again, YouTube was my excuse, and is still my excuse to learn and experiment. And so the first videos I did they were called improvised patch tutorials. So it was basically me opening VCV Rec and improvising a patch. After a while, I started concentrating on specific modules, but basically building a patch, learning while making the video.
It's one of the best ways to learn, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're showing something or doing something with it, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. There's a saying, if you want to learn something, teach it,
Exactly.
So, so that's what I thought. I thought I would my excuse is to make videos, and through the videos, I could spend a lot of time doing it. And I will have also a drive, something that excites me, that I can share my experience with others. And that way I can learn. And it was great.
Was there a point for you where you first opened up this program when you first get VCV, right? And you're kind of looking at it, and it can be pretty daunting for when you first look at it. You see all these modules and these lines connect. You see some of the example patches, like, oh my God, what is this? And then you look on the website, there's so many modules to pick from. Was there a spot for you where you basically almost figured it out, where you can kind of fly on your own? Because in the first time, you're kind of just thinking, how do I do this? How does this work? Inputs, outputs, you're kind of thinking in signal flow. When did that point come for you when you're kind of like, I can now do this on my own and start experimenting, when you felt comfortable with it?
So I felt comfortable right away. I mean, it didn't take any time for this. It's not like I knew what I'm doing, but it felt right. Again, I felt at home in this environment. So I was not afraid. I was not scared. I was excited. I was happy. So I just went to it. At the beginning, I remember I couldn't understand how I make the sound stop. Why there was always sound. There is something that everyone struggled with at the beginning. Yeah. How do I make this sound stop? What do I have to do? And then you realize that, and you go forward step by step. There's no magic trick that you can learn everything in one day. You have to take it step by step. But again, I started making videos, I started improvising, and slowly, I felt more and more comfortable. At the beginning, instead of volt per octave, I used to say velocity per octave, for example, because I was always confused, Yeah, it's just step by step, that's it. But I felt directly comfortable. I remember also, so I discovered VCV through a post by Synthopia. I believe it was September 2017. It was on Facebook. And I remember I saw it, and before even downloading it, I directly sent a message to my old teacher from this course that I took back then. It was like 11 years after it. And I told him, listen, there's something new and exciting, and it's free, go check it out. So I was so excited, I even wrote my teacher from back then. So it was like really a big moment for me. And again, I felt directly comfortable. Not because I knew what I'm doing. I'm not trying to be vain or anything, but it just that I felt at home. That's it. I knew this is the thing for me. No DAW.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
No timeline, no stop, no play. Everything is running. I can play stuff live. I can perform. For me, performance is really important. I can perform stuff live. I always wanted to have my own sort of orchestra, if you will. So there was a time, also I skipped that, but there was a time when I tried to go back to electronic music and I got, how is this thing called? From Waves. I think it's called Element or Elements from Waves.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing synth,
bundles,
really
yeah.
great for beginners also. So I got this one and I started working with it, and I always felt it was back then I already moved to Reaper, and I always felt like I want to play all of the voices at the same time. I don't want to play one voice and then go back to the beginning and play another voice and go back to the beginning, and overdub. I want everything to happen at the same time, and Modular was the answer for this. So also in the Modular environment, I have my own orchestra, and I'm a part of it also, and I have all of these voices running at the same time, and they can react to one another. It's like, I'm sorry that I'm talking so much, but I'm excited about it.
It's interesting. Yeah, keep going,
It's just that, for example, are you playing any instruments? Are you in a band maybe? We're in a band or something? So,
you mean me or Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, we're both guitar players.
Oh, but are you playing also with other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is always a different vibe when you are playing live together or when you are overdubbing over each other. Because when you are overdubbing, there is no reaction between the bandmates, right? But when you are playing live, you might hear something that will make you do something else. And there is this dynamics between the band players or the bandmates, right? And it's just exactly the same when you play all of the voices together, or when you play them one by one, and overdubbing and stopping and cutting and copy pasting and all of this. When you play together, it's like it's one big entity, right? Organic entity that just reacts. Everything reacts to one another.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was just like mind blowing for me. Really,
so it's basically like
something this is available.
Patch.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the idea right there?
If one song,
or for the
is
most
a
part,
patch,
I guess maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess if you can call it a patch or a collection of patches of different voices. But yes, there are many. For me, at least, this is how my workflow is. All of the voices are playing, and I am the one who is performing the patch. I mean, of course, also, in Modular, there is modulation, there is all of lots of movement. Things are also happening by their own. But yes, I'm performing and everything is always there. If I'm using a filter, I will bring, usually I use a filter, so I bring voices in and out with a filter or with the levels, but everything is always there and I'm performing. Basically, it's a performance of a patch. Yeah, you want to call it a patch, it's a patch, or a collection of smaller patches or patchlets, if you will.
Patchlets.
Yeah. This is a perfect segue. Can you tell us a little bit more about your creative process? Because one of my favorite tutorials from you was your Bufako Rampage tutorial.
Oh, yeah.
Where you used every single, all the comparator outputs and all the different outputs. I've probably watched it like 20 times. So does it start with an idea for you, or do you allow the modules to sort of dictate your process? Do you just start with experimenting, or do you allow the modules to sort of show you where to go?
Do you mean with the videos, with VCV videos, or with the music?
Or when you're doing a patch, do you start with an idea first, or do you allow the modules themselves?
In both cases, if I sit down to work on a video or to work on music with VCV or music with hardware, I will try always to have an idea first, yeah. Sometimes it will be a musical idea, sometimes it will be a patch idea, sometimes it will be a module I want to explore. But yeah, I found after a while that if I sit down and I have no idea how to start, then nothing will happen eventually.
I see.
So I always try to have an idea. And also a great tip, I think, for everyone, especially someone who's starting out, is always separating the processes or two processes. One process is practicing or sound design or learning, and the other process is composing and making music.
Yeah.
So this is also something I always try to do. I try to make time for experimenting without the pressure of ending with music. And I give myself time to work on music, a composition, and then usually I will try also to have an idea. Sometimes recently in the last year or 2 years, I come with ideas from the piano. I see the piano, I have a melody, I try to figure out different voices, voicing, harmonies, and then I go and I translate it to the modular basically.
That's great. That's such a wonderful answer, because I was always wondering where the tutorial patches come from. Do they start with? It sounds like they start with a sort of a general concept, and you maybe do a dry run through first, and then you film it on camera the second time.
The tutorial is something different. Yeah, it's something a bit different from music, because the tutorial are usually concentrating on something specific. If it's a module, if it's an idea, if it's a sound design idea. So I just try to explore it as much as I can, and then I work on patches. You know, in software, it's so much easier because you can save patches and then come back to them later on. In hardware, it's different. You cannot save anything, which is great. I love it. But if you are doing a video with 5 different segments, then you have to make one segment, record it, unpatch everything, patch everything, you know, with VCV or with software anyway. It's much easier like this. So I can give myself a lot of time to experiment, to explore, and if it's a module, if it's an idea, patch idea or something like this.
Wow.
That is so. If you're doing hardware and software sometimes together, right? There's going to be differences of those two. And aside from actually patching the stuff, is there a difference in sound? Do you feel that's in hardware versus something that you'd make in VCV rack?
So I guess, first of all, yes, definitely yes, but I'm not so sure why. So I cannot tell you it's digital versus analog, or it's hardware versus software. I think it's the workflow. So what I did recently, I just released a new album yesterday. I don't know when people will see this, but I just released a new album that I recorded all in Bitwig.
Oh, nice.
Not long ago, like a year ago or 2 years ago, like everyone. You know this also, John, like everyone, we moved to Bitwig.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I recorded the whole album in Bitwig. And then the other day, I have also I have 4 channels actually. So I have another channel that is just for music that I do with hardware. So I took this composition that I made in Bitwig and I transcribed it, maybe if you will, to hardware, and I recorded it with hardware, and it sounds totally different. It's the same composition, it's the same notes more or less, but it sounds totally different. And I think, again, I don't think it's the analog versus digital. I don't think it's the software versus hardware. I think it's the workflow. I think it's how you patch things. How you think about sound in hardware, it's different. It's very physical, you know, it's not with a mouse or whatever. You actually touch things. Also, the performance is very much different because everything is... So something you do usually in software, or in my case, VCV rack, is you have a patch going, or you have a song, let's say, in the DAW, and then you start mapping things with the MIDI controller, right?
Yeah.
So what you will do, you will have to think what you want to map. And you will have to decide what, and there is, first of all, there is a limitation because you don't have a MIDI controller with thousands of knobs, so you cannot map everything. Second of all, there is muscle memory. So if you do map many things, you don't remember where they are. You look at your MIDI controller and you don't see what is what. You have to remember it. But with hardware, it's different because hardware is there. You don't have to think about anything. You reach for something, and you have 2 hands also. You reach for something, and it's there. If during the performance, and it happened 1,000 times already for me, if during a performance you think, wow, I would love to change the time of the delay, or wow, I wish I could bring up the resonance, and you don't even think about this. You're in the middle of the performance, and you just reach out, and it's there. So
that's got to be a cool feeling.
So the workflow is totally different. You think much less, and you are much more in the moment. You are much more in the sound. You can close your eyes and be in the sound and not just reach for stuff. And there is muscle memory because you have the modules. They are not changing all the time like in VCV Rec. Every patch is different. And you just reach for stuff and it's there for you to explore and to perform and to change. And it's immediate also. You do something and it's there. It's not like mapping to, the MIDI controller is great. I have also a MIDI controller, but it's the workflow is different.
Yeah.
So the sound is also different.
It has to be the control in your map and stuff too. And then after you map everything, you're like, okay, this is cool. Oh no, I should have mapped it to the other sliders. And then you go and map that. And by the time you're done with that, you're like, I don't even feel like making a patch anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you have to remember, like you're saying, I get that. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I don't think it's the analog versus digital. I don't think it's the software versus hardware. I think it's the workflow. That's it. And this will change the sound totally.
Yeah, it's like they say, you change the environment, then you change the outcome. How you put things together, the outcome's going to be
there is
different.
a reaction.
Even if you have the same modules,
Yeah, for sure. You react differently to the instrument. There is a conversation there. It's not just you and the instrument. There is something going on there. There is conversation. There is reaction. You react to the instrument reacts to you. That's how it is.
So speaking of reactions, you have a fascination with mushrooms or fungi. Can you tell us where this love of mycelium begins and what inspires you? And I have a follow-up question.
I think everybody's set up in their chairs right now.
Do you see Modular in the same way as an extension of a connected network, much like the mycelium network that fungi is built upon?
Yes. But it's not why I love mushrooms and not why I love Modular. But yes, of course, it's a mycelial network.
Yes.
If you zoom in a bit from a Modular case, you see the cables, everything is connected, lights are blinking. It can be like this. But this is not why my love for mushroom started a long time ago. You know what? I'm not so sure even why it started. But I love how they look. I love how they smell when they are good and not all rotten and stuff.
Yes.
And I used to walk and take pictures of mushrooms. Every time I see a mushroom somewhere, I'm like, oh wow, look at this, look at that. And I love the colors, and I love how special they are. They were here before us. They will be here after us. They are the alpha and omega. Without mushrooms, we are nothing. Without fungi, at least, we are nothing. They are super interesting. They are dangerous. They are exciting. My love for mushrooms started a long time ago. But yes, it can be a connection for sure. Yeah, it's a Modular is a mycelial network.
Yes.
What exactly is that? If someone out there is kind of wondering what that means.
A mycelial network? Well, fungi, So fungi, what we call mushrooms are basically the sort of like the fruits of the fungi. Like if you think about an apple tree and apples. So apples are the mushrooms that we eat and we see outside. They are the fruiting body of the fungi. And the fungi itself lives underground or inside a dead tree or something like this. And it's basically like small strings, like white strings that are called mycelium. And this is the network basically of the fungi. Sometimes it can be really large also. Yes, and it consists of what's called hyphae, or hypha is one. It's like one string, and hyphae is many strings that build the mycelium and the mycelial network in which the fungi exists, basically. So mycelium is basically mushrooms, and actually it's also interesting because unlike if we talked about apples, unlike an apple tree and apples that are two different things. Right, they are organically two different things. Right. Mushrooms and mycelium are the same. So mushrooms are basically also from mycelium. So when you eat mushrooms, you eat mycelium basically. Especially really mushrooms and fungi is always like,
Yeah,
apropos
I just watched
mycelium. Sorry,
so
what?
great.
Go ahead.
I was saying I watched the IMAX special on mycelium and fungi. It was fascinating. And John, these mycelium networks, they're interconnected and they can adapt and they can change with the conditions. They can talk to each other. So that's why I sort of connected the dots between Omri's modular experience and his fascination, because the modules and the voltage. That's like the hi-fi connections. Do you know what I'm saying?
That does make sense. Yeah, maybe
there's
that's
something that's called
thing. I don't know.
There's something that's called the Wood Wide Web, like the World Wide Web. But it's called the Wood Wide Web.
Yes.
That's basically a certain type of fungi. It's called the mycorrhizal fungi that lives among trees, and trees communicate throughout the fungi. So if one tree is sick, for example, it will communicate through the mycelium, through the fungi. And the fungi will connect with another tree and will tell this tree, listen, this tree is sick. Can you send some of your ants to fight the disease that this tree has? And can you give a bit more minerals or stuff?
We just
insane.
blew John's mind wide
so
open.
Like Avatar is not really that far from the truth.
No. It's always
Have you seen O played, The Last of Us?
Yeah.
No. I've seen people play it, but I haven't personally played it myself.
It's also a TV series now. Mm-hmm. So it's about a plague or like an apocalypse that came from a certain type of fungi. Mm-hmm. It's called cordyceps. And cordyceps exist also in real life, basically. And it's called also the zombie mushroom. You should definitely Google it. It's called the zombie mushroom. So what it's doing... it's basically taking control over insects. It's taking control over their brain and their body. And for example, let's talk about ants. So this cordyceps will take control over the ant. It will bring the ant to climb the highest point it can. And then it will, in the meantime, it will eat also the insides of the ant. And when the ant reaches this point, there will come something, a mushroom will come out of its head or its back. And then because it's the highest point, it will basically spread the spores, which is like the seeds, if you will. Mm-hmm. And like this, it will thrive, and like this, it will move on to other insects. So the series in this game is basically on a type of cordyceps that doesn't exist in real life, but it's about cordyceps that do this to humans. And humans become basically sorts of zombies, fungi zombies, something insane. It's crazy. And there's another type. I'm sorry that I'm
no, this is
but there's another type.
Tangent.
So there are type of ants. I think in English they are called leaf cutter ants.
Yeah.
So they will go out, the ants, and they will cut leaves and bring them back to their colony. And you might think maybe they are eating the leaves or they are using it for protection or whatnot, but not. They are taking the leaves and they are feeding a mushroom. They are feeding the leaves to a fungi that then they eat the fungi. So there is some sort of connection there, symbiosis. The ants will go out, bring food to the mushroom, and they will eat eventually the mushroom. It's insane. It's like crazy. Stuff that exists.
I did not know any of this. This is insane.
Yeah, there's
so
a great
you see
book.
Omri literally relates to modular. I mean, all of his modules are interconnected. They're all connected through voltage. Yeah. We're talking about clock dividers and delays and everything like that. So the voltage gets transferred, and sometimes it happens sometimes it happens at another time. But the whole thing is music. It's all musical. It's fascinating.
That is mind-blowing,
connection.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, that was much more of an answer than I expected. I was, hoping that there was some fascinating. No, hey, listen, I led you down that path.
I got excited there for a moment.
Well, one thing I love about your music is it feels to me like, especially stuff you do on Modular Fungi, the live performance channel that you have, it feels very emotionally charged. And now that I've gotten to know you better and understand your journey as a musician, can you tell us what you're trying to channel with those modular performances? Is it something very primal and raw and real that you're trying to, express through music?
Yeah. So as I said before, I never liked this whole timeline thing, this whole DAW approach. And with the modular, the way I make music with the modular is almost always live. So for me, it's all about the performance and about performing the patches, and every performance is different, and about performing it live. The recording is basically me performing the patch with my two hands live. So it's very emotional. Again, I have a sort of an orchestra, if you will, all the different voices are running at the same time, and I'm performing it. And I have headphones on. It's a bit dark here. It can get very intense. And that's it. The other channel basically. So at the beginning, I used to share my music also on the main channel, but it felt a bit disconnected because the main channel is mostly about VCV Rack, and my music I make mostly with hardware. So it felt like there's no connection there. So I decided to open a new channel. This is just for my music and musical explorations, and it's mostly hardware, modular hardware, Eurorack, and other synthesizers. Like for a while, I had the Make Noise Dark. How is it called? The Dark Trinity. So it's the O Coast, O Control, and Strega. So I also use them. I incorporate my flute. I had for a while a bass guitar that I used to incorporate also, which is quite fun with modular. So it's basically the Modular Fungi channel is all about just my music. So no speaking, no tutorials, just music, and mostly with hardware. Again, I started using Bitwig like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. So now I multi-track record everything into Bitwig, and Bitwig it's another story. I mean, it's a whole modular environment by itself. Bitwig itself is a modular instrument. With the grid or without the grid, it doesn't matter. It's insane.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you dive into the grid at all?
So actually, yes, I started not long ago another channel.
So wait, is that 4 now?
No, it's 3.
That's 3, but I have 4 channels. I have one channel dedicated also just for videos for Patreons. But this channel is called the Bitwig Mycelium, of course. And it's all about Bitwig, the grid, basically, where I explore the grid, patching ideas, bringing my ideas from the modular, from Eurorack or from VCV Rack into Bitwig, and exploring all sorts of stuff there. So yes, I'm also exploring the grid. It's a bit different than hardware and VCV Rack, or let's say Eurorack, because VCV Rack is an emulation of Eurorack. So it's a bit different, but it's very exciting. I think it sounds amazing. I think the sound itself is unbelievable. It looks amazing. The workflow is different, of course. And it's very interesting. Yeah, I really like it. It's very interesting.
Do you ever try any of the other ones out? Like there's Voltage out now. Obviously, we're talking about the grid. So like, have you kind of experimented with those and seen which one maybe sounds better, or maybe you're just used to the workflow of VCV Rack?
Well, I tried, I forgot how it's called, the one that has Doppler and mutable instruments.
Cardinal?
Sorry?
Cardinal?
No, not Cardinal.
No, not Cardinal.
But so I tried one, and I forgot, it's like from a big company, they make all sorts of VSTs and plugins, and they make also a modular environment, like very Eurorack with Eurorack manufacturers and stuff like this. But it was way...
No, it's not Voltage.
No, it's not Voltage, no. But it was way too CPU heavy, so I couldn't really do anything there before it started crackling and popping and stuff. And then I tried Voltage Modular, which is also great. I think I still have it also. I think it's great. There are many modules there. There are also third-party developers. But as you said, I was already used to the workflow of VCV Rack. And VCV Rack, for me, it's more than just a software, I guess. It's more of a community. I mean, VCV Rack, the best thing about VCV Rack is that it's free. And I don't mean because of the money. I don't mean you don't have to pay money for it, but because it's free, it's available for everyone, and everyone has the same software basically, and the same modules, more or less. So sharing ideas and connecting with other people is so easy. I mean, if you have Voltage Modular, it's also great, but I mean, the number of people who use it is much fewer, I guess, than VCV Rack. And when you have modules that you bought, not everyone has them. The same with Eurorack. This is why I don't make a lot of videos with Eurorack, with hardware, because it's hard to communicate, I guess. And not everyone has the same thing. With VCV Rack, it's so easy because it's free. Everyone has the same. You can share ideas. You can connect with people. You can experiment. You can learn from others really easily. So it's a really great starting point, I guess, to this whole world. So this is why I stuck with VCV Rack, I guess. Also, I don't have the guilt I'm sure you guys have this when you show something new, a new instrument, a new effects, and people go and buy this. I don't know. For me, it was like a bit like I felt a bit guilty that I make people spend so much money. And maybe it's not for them. Maybe just because it works for me doesn't mean it works for them. So with VCV Rec, I also don't have this because it's free anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's also for me better. But but especially because it's free. Again, not because of the money. You buy so many things, so many software, so many VSTs. It's not because of the money. It's because that everyone has the same, basically. You can share ideas. You can share experience, techniques, and so on, and learn also from others really easily.
Right.
So that's mostly why I stuck with VCV.
Expensive fast.
Yeah, just the cables.
That's what's kind of scary.
Just the patch cables, man.
Hardware, but
just the patch cables. Oh my god, yeah, for sure.
To take out a loan to make a huge patch or something.
Yeah.
But speaking of the hardware, there's one I've always wanted to try. A filter. I believe it's from Erica Synths. They modeled the Polyvox. Have you heard of that one before?
No. I mean, I heard of it, but I never tried it. No.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on it, give it a listen. It's pretty wild. That filter is insane.
I love filters. Yeah, I use filters a lot as a performative tool. So instead of using mixer volume, I use filters because it's not only taking the levels down, it's also making them darker, making the sound darker or the voices darker, which I love. You can control intensity while you control volume. So I love filters. I have quite a few.
Yeah, give it a shot. It's kind of like what the MS-20's filter sounds like, but way more intense.
Yeah, screamy.
Yeah, I don't know if they have that in VCV or I don't know if anybody's modeled that digitally or
I'm not so sure.
Environment like that.
I was going to also mention that Omri is also an author. On his Patreon, he has a very large tips and tricks book that it just keeps on growing. So every month he'll update the book. How did the concept of that whole book start? And how do you see it? Do you see it as an ever-evolving library, or was it just something you always wanted to do, was create all of your ideas in written form? How did it start?
Yeah, I just wanted to collect everything and just to have everything in one place. There are so many videos. I have, I guess, more than 500, more than 700 maybe videos. Go find something there, Also in YouTube, you watch a video or you upload a video. After 2 weeks, no one watches it or almost no one watches it. So everything goes to waste, I guess. I mean, it sounds harsh, but that's so. I thought I wanted just to have a collection of everything and to have everything accessible. You go there, you see there is a diagram, exactly how you have to patch. There are a few words on it. There's also an example patch in VCV Rec that you can open. And again, VCV Rec is free, so everyone has this. All the modules are free that I'm using there. Yeah. So it's just a collection. It's really fun. Yeah, it's. I also learn a lot from it, and also for me, I want to. Yeah, also for me, there are so many things your head can keep, in a few years.
Yes.
You just lose so much information, so you have like a document that you can always refer to, and it's great. Yeah.
What's kind of cool from your perspective is since you're writing it and putting it together, it speaks to you absolutely 100% correctly. You know what I mean? So if you're picking out a different module, you're like, okay, where was this feature? Where was that? Or which one am I looking for? And then you can go to your own documentation that you wrote. And you're speaking to yourself from the past, which I've personally done that with some old videos of mine where I open up a synth. I'm like, oh, where is this again? And then I was like, okay, I did a video series on oh, duh. Okay, there it is. Thanks, John.
For sure. Yeah.
My man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, the fact that it comes with patch examples, every single chapter has another example and you can open that up and just look at it. There's also conceptual examples in there just to kind of get you to think about something different. You might want to try this, you might want to try that.
And it's also for people who are not necessarily using VCV Rec. It's also for people who are using hardware. It's not, you don't need the modules from VCV Rec. The ideas there are very much also applicable to hardware. So if you're using a filter, there's a filter in hardware. If you're using a sample and hold, there is sample and hold in hardware. Yeah. So you can very much experiment with your modules and your setup, which is great.
Did you say that's on your Patreon, or is there someone buy that?
That's on my Patreon. Yeah. Okay. That's on my Patreon because I update it always. So it's hard to sell something. So it's just always updating.
Are we ever going to see that book in printed form, maybe? One day we'll have a Omri Cohen coffee table.
Just a second.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
I'm so glad I asked.
That's an exclusive. It's still not available, but have a look at this. Oh, it's upside down. You have to upside down.
Dude. That's going to look nice on the shelf.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
still not
beautiful.
available,
Congratulations.
If you are familiar with VCV Rec, so you might know Pierre, you know the geodesics modules.
Of course. Those are beautiful.
Yeah,
so wild looking. Yeah.
I love them.
Pierre was the designer, or is the designer of them, and many other modules also in VCV Rec, and he also designed the book. So it's also designed by Pierre, right? Which is quite, and of course there are mushrooms, as you can see here.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's flipped. I don't know how to flip this.
That's okay.
But
we can see it.
you can see Modular cookbook.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so hopefully it will be available soon. I don't know. I still don't have enough copies for this, but yeah.
Yeah, please let us
Exciting.
know, man. I'm a huge book guy. I love books.
sure.
I'd rather read a manual than watch like an instructional video.
And the geodesics collection is some of the best there. I mean, all of December, I kid you not, last month, I was just going through all of your geodesics videos, starting with brains. And then going to, everything, Taurus, Horus. I mean, all of they're just so good. They're so good.
The ideas behind them are so interesting. Where the ideas came from, I mean, they came from Pierre, but where he got the ideas and how the modules are arranged and how they are looking. And a sample and hold is much more than a sample and hold, and a filter is much more than a filter, and an oscillator is much more than an oscillator. Yeah, and I should definitely make new videos about them because the videos I made are really old and are kind of weird, I guess, when I look at them today. It was like 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah, you know how it is.
Exactly. Your style changes, but I mean, Entropia as a sequencer, like, when I reach for a sequencer, I'll think about Entropia, like that maybe
that's a nice one. Yeah.
It's a nice one, right? It's just
the movement and the randomness.
Yes.
So basically, it's a sequencer for those of you who don't want to explore something new. It's a sequencer that you can. So first of all, you can morph between two different sequences without slew, without portamento, without glide or anything. It will just morph between them, and you can set the probability of morphing. You can also morph into a random sequence. So you can say, for example, I want one step to have probability that sometimes it will take the original sequence, sometimes it will go into a random sequence. It's insane. Really, really.
So that's the cool part about modular. It's like you can really paint the sound pictures however you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there's probably a module out there to do exactly what you want it to do.
Yeah, and if not, you can build it yourself. I mean, if not, you take a few modules, you connect them together, and you get what you want. You can also have probability per step with individual modules. It's also possible.
Do you ever, when you're going out through your day, just kind of thinking like, oh, what if I put this one against that one? And what if I connected that module to this guy and made this? Then you get home and you go and try it. Does that happen to you pretty often?
Yeah. But usually I am at home. I'm always in front of the computer. And I always just fire up VCV Rec and I give it a try. This is the nice thing about VCV Rec in comparison to hardware. You can just open it, you fire it up, you try something, you like it, you save it, you don't like it, you don't save it. You like it, you want to explore it further, you go to the hardware. I think Dash also spoke about this in his episode with you guys. How you can easily explore in software and in VCV Rec in this case, and then go and try it in hardware. So it's so much easier. Such a cool platform, really, for exploration and experimentation. But yes, it happens it happens a lot. Yeah, definitely. In the shower, you know how it is. When you go to sleep, all of a sudden your mind starts working. Yeah.
That has happened to me. I've gone to sleep and like, what if I synthesize a dial tone and then make a patch, maybe in like Falcon or something, and make every macro like the touch tone pad? It's just, it works, by the way.
For sure, yeah.
So I would, personally, coming from my own personal experience, I would consider you one of the most underrated ambient music producers out there. Would you consider yourself an ambient artist, or are you just someone who loves to explore different genres and sounds?
Wow. I have no idea. So first of all, yes, I like to explore different sounds and different genres and stuff like this, but mostly for learning and experimenting ideas and techniques. Like I will listen to techno or whatever, and I will try to take something from that into my music. I don't know if the music I make or I made in the last year or 2 years or something, this is ambient. I have no idea. I really don't know. Usually there is no kick. There are no hi-hats, usually 4 on the floor or something like this. There are almost no drums, which is weird because, as I said, I started out as a drummer. There are melodies. I love polymeters. There are melodies connecting and meeting each other at different places. There's lots of... my hobby in the last year or 2 years is sending reverbs into distortion. So there's lots of distortion. Lots of intensity in my music. I guess, I don't know, that's what I'm trying. I started also, so in the beginning I used to make music, which was great. I don't think it was bad, but of more general ideas like about mushrooms and stuff like this. But then lately I said to myself, okay, it has to be a bit more personal, and I started making my music a bit more personal and a bit more things that I can connect with more. So I hope there's a lot of emotion in there. There is a story in the music, I hope. I don't know if it's ambient or not. Someone said once that all of these tags and names we give music is not our way of defining music, but it's our way to find ourselves inside this vast universe of sound. So I have no idea if it's ambient or not. I really don't know.
It does
but it's
you on
definitely
journey, though,
not
for
techno.
sure.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Thanks. Thank you. It's definitely not
absolutely.
techno.
I mean, sometimes,
music,
John, I mean, now that you know about the mycelium, the mycelium modular channel, I swear, I put it on one day. I was just cooking in my kitchen and I put it on my headphones. I was just cooking, and I just got so inspired. I was just like, the way he just leads you on this journey. I mean, the food was flying everywhere, and I'm just going listening to Omri's music. It was intense.
Thanks, man. Thank
a wonderful experience.
And the cool part, it's almost in a way unpredictable. Like, I don't know where you're going to go with it. But with most songs we listen to, I'm like, okay, we have the intro, we have a verse, there's a build-up, then we have a drop or chorus, depending on how you put it. Yeah. With yours, it's like, I don't know where I'm going. You put me in the car seat or whatever it is. Buckle me up, dude, and send me off to space, man. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is definitely what I'm going for. And I think it's a result of the live performance, just me performing it. So there is no chorus, verse and stuff like this. Not that I think it's bad, but it's just not working for me.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Honestly. And I think also because everything is always there running. So there are no points. There is no like looping, or how should I say? There's no change after 8 bars, bigger change after 16 bars, even bigger change after 30. It's more of like I'm trying to have it more flow, or to have it flowing, I guess. So, thank you.
Your latest
really
album.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, your latest album, On a Path of Self-Destruction.
Oh, that was yesterday, by the way. Yeah.
Yes, just yesterday. It is very much, to me, it's very much ambient. And that's why I would consider you very underrated, because a lot of people don't know that you they know you create all these tutorials and all this other kind of thing, but they don't really know that you release music. And I just want to give a shout out to that, because I love your music, and it's so emotionally charged and powerful.
And actually the second track there has a kick drum.
Well, by the way, that one does have a kick drum.
And ambient can have a kick. I'm the first one to tell you that ambient is not just beatless music. There are
for sure not. Yeah, for sure not. Yeah. But that's interesting, because this whole album was recorded in Bitwig. So there is almost, I believe, maybe one voice there is coming from hardware that I just kept. But most of it is Bitwig, and I approached Bitwig as I approached hardware. So I built a few voices that, again, I performed live. All of the voices were running. Bitwig has I forgot how it's called, the clip manager. So you can just have everything running. And I performed everything live, and the voices more or less stayed the same throughout the album. So it's just like I approach composing in hardware, I approach it and I really enjoyed it. It was working in a DAW in a different way, in a different workflow, with a different workflow, but I really enjoyed it. And again, I made this experiment taking one of the tracks and recording it just with hardware, and it was such a nice experience, I guess. Yeah, it was cool.
Wow.
It seems amazing with hardware and software for the VCV and stuff. And then Bitwig, it's like you can really experiment to your heart's content, right? You can just
and I learned so much also, tools. Man. It's like from every platform you just learn so much, and it's like cross pollination. Is it called? Yeah, cross pollination, right? Like everything is feeding everything else, and it's I don't know. It's like It's crazy. I love it. Really.
So now that VCV Rec 2 is now in the DAW as a plugin, do you find yourself still going back to just like starting and finishing a track inside of the standalone version, or are you now just using VCV as a plugin? Which do you find yourself
I hardly use it as a plugin, to be honest.
Yeah,
I use just a standalone. When I use VCV Rec and when I make music with VCV Rec, then usually it's just VCV Rec, and usually I will record the stereo outputs.
Yeah.
And then I don't process anything or something. It's just left and right, and that's it. Right. I found, so at the beginning when I started out, I combined both worlds. I combined hardware and software. Now at the beginning I didn't have a lot of hardware, so it made sense. But slowly I understood that it's not working out. It's like they are hurting each other. Both platforms, the hardware and the software, for me at least, the workflow was a bit hindering, I guess. So first of all, your head is in a totally different space when you are in hardware, because in hardware, again, you don't think so much, and it's like you have... I know it sounds terrible, but sometimes you see horses and they have this thing here on the head.
Yes.
So they don't. They cannot look left and right, and they are focused on one thing. So with hardware, it feels a bit like that. You are and then when you have to change to software and you turn your head and you're in software, it's like everything is opening, and you have so many possibilities. It just didn't work for me. So slowly I started using just hardware and just VCV Rec. So if I make music with VCV Rec, it will be usually just VCV Rec, maybe another synthesizer, a MIDI controller, but usually that's it. And with hardware, then it's just hardware, and I multi-track record everything into Bitwig. And what I will also do, that's also a nice tip maybe for someone who wants to do this, is usually what I will do, I will have reverbs in Bitwig, because then I can mix everything before the reverb, if it makes sense. Does it make sense? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I can mix everything before the reverb. And the reverbs I have in hardware, I have them free for sound design and not as a end-of-chain reverb like I do in Bitwig. Yeah. So then I can use the reverb. So, so there are many options, but I prefer when I'm with hardware, working just with hardware, and then I have less possibilities, less distraction. I can really concentrate. And just with VCV Rec, then again, when you just look at the screen and you have your mouse, you are in the zone, and you don't have to look anywhere else and start dealing with a different platform or the different environment or something. So you can really concentrate. So I kind of moved away from combining both worlds, but it can work really nicely also.
Are you piping the sound from the standalone VCV into Bitwig, or are you just using the record module in VCV to record the output?
No. With VCV Rec, I have a different setup. So I'm using Reaper also. Reaper is my platform for recording and editing videos.
I see.
Yeah. So I will use Reaper for that. I find Reaper really clean, I guess. No distractions. Like Bitwig is beautiful and everything, but it's very distracting for mixing and for editing.
Right.
So Reaper is perfect. I don't know if you know Reaper, but you can customize it and have buttons here and all sorts of different macros and stuff like this. So it's great for editing and stuff. So I have on Windows, Reaper has a specific plugin that you can route audio from one software into Reaper and from Reaper into the software. So basically I'm routing VCV Rec into Reaper for recording.
I got it.
So I will record directly into Reaper, and then I don't have to deal with anything. I don't have to convert anything or something like that.
I see. Yeah. And then you can also multi-track if you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can also multi-track. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
So with your complex patches and all those crazy networks, right? I forgot the mushroom name, but
Mycelium.
How do you name your patches? Like when you put some together and it's come times to save it, or you're going to bed for the night, do you have a certain way of naming patches? Because it's always kind of a funny thing when we read patch names, right? Like the Midnight Sun, right? Well, it's hard to, like, what do you call them?
Wow,
yours are way more complicated.
There was once, it was really late at night, and I forgot how I call it, cookies or something with cookies. I forgot. Never mind. But there was a point. There was a point in my journey where I decided, first of all, to separate experimentation and composing or recording or working on patches. Mm-hmm. And when I wanted to work on compositions or music, I tried always to come first with an idea that also involved the title, basically. So before I even approach the patch, I already have the title, and I will think about the title, not in a Mickey Mouse kind of thing, like if it makes sense, like not like if it has water, the title has water, so I will make water sounds, not like this, but in the level of emotion and basically ideas that I have. So I will take this with me into the music. So I will most of the time I will try to sit down and have the title already in my head, and with intention make music accordingly. So the title has some connection also to the music, and the music has connection to the title. And I'm not just sitting there and trying to think, okay, what will I do now? What will I not do now? Oh, it reminds me of the moonlight, so I will call it the moonlight, whatever. No, I try always when I'm composing, when I'm making music, I try. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes I work on a patch, and all of a sudden I wake up and I say, wow, I have to record this. This will be another piece of music. And I come up with the title. But most of the time, I will try to have more intention, I guess, and not let things happen, but make them happen, I guess. I mean, there's so much we can control, but but just have more intention. So the name or the title will already be there.
That's
especially
most of the
with
time it's an end process.
No, not for me. No, I decided.
That's really cool.
I decided that it doesn't work for me. I need inspiration, and the title definitely has a meaning in my music, especially when it comes to albums. I already have the titles before I even think about the music. I already have the idea of the album, if it's on a path of self-destruction, if it's Broken Heart of Sand and Stone, or my other albums. So there are, most of the time there is already the idea before the music even started.
I remember the first time I downloaded VCV Rec, and it was inspiring, absolutely, but also overwhelming at the same time, right? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people felt like that. I think you might be an exception to that. So if someone's inspired by the stuff you've done and kind of want to go on that path and go down that journey, and they're kind of struggling with the beginning and how this works, what kind of advice would you tell them to stick through it and kind of power through till you finally understand it?
All right. Well, first of all, I was overwhelmed. It's not like I knew what I'm doing. I was overwhelmed, but I just enjoyed the process so much that I just didn't think about it. But if you're starting out with VCV Rec, first of all, step by step. There is no magic trick. There is no magic button. There is no magic video that you can watch and all of a sudden learn everything. Try to take it step by step. And the most important thing, again, this is something I learned the hard way, but separate your processes. If you want to learn, then sit down and don't put pressure on yourself to finish a composition or to finish a piece of music. If you have an idea, if you want to learn what an envelope is, then sit down. If you have 20 minutes, great. If you have half an hour, better. If you have an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, sit down and concentrate on one thing. If you want to learn what is an envelope, then concentrate on the envelope. If you want to watch videos, great. If you don't want to watch videos, also great. Take the envelope and try to understand it in the time you have. Don't overwhelm yourself with other modules. Don't overwhelm yourself with the feeling you have to finish something. Just sit there and practice. Just like you sit at the piano and practice scales, you don't expect to practice scales and write a symphony. Yeah, it's exactly the same. The modular environment, VCV Rec, hardware, it's an instrument like any other instrument that you have to practice. I know there are some people that say, and I don't say that they are wrong. I think they are wrong, but it's not what I say. I mean, maybe they are right, but in my opinion, people who tell you just sit down and patch things and see what happens, I think that's not a good approach. Because first of all, on that one, because first of all, it will take you so much longer to learn something. Second of all, if you do something cool that you want to do another time, you don't have no idea what you did. You just connected stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The happy accidents, you won't even remember how to do it again.
Happy accidents will happen, never mind what. But if you understand what's going on, you can go back and trace your steps and even learn something from it. Because there is, if you understand something, it's much better than if you know something. If you understand it, it will move you forward. And if you spend time learning and practicing, you have to practice. There is no magic in this. Just because it's electronic music, just because it's software, just because you don't have to practice scales, doesn't mean you don't have to practice. You don't have to learn it. It's an instrument like any other instrument. So if you are starting out, don't overwhelm yourselves with the choices. Take it step by step and learn one thing at a time without putting pressure on making music. You want to make music, then dedicate specific time for making music, for composing, because then when you separate the things, let's say that you have a sound design session and you tell yourself, okay, I have an hour now that I want to practice pads. I want to create as many pads as I can. Now imagine from those 100 pads that you built, you have one that you really liked. Tomorrow you come, you sit down, you want to make music, you think, wow, I really need a pad now. I really wish I could make a pad. Yep. You have it. You made it yesterday. You can take it to a different level, you can experiment a bit more, but you have the basics of how you want, or the pad you want to hear in this track, right? So separate.
I think that's way more efficient doing it that way. Because then you have a pool of things to pick from whenever you need something.
And it's not just efficient. It gives you a comprehensive understanding of how the pad was actually made.
And everything you go through, you understand more and more, and you take it also to other ideas and other modules and stuff like this. So don't skip the part of learning things. Sit down and practice. And don't overwhelm yourself with choices. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't start watching now 15 videos on different things at the same day. Try to concentrate. Try take a week. Listen, if it's just a hobby, do whatever you want. It's on you. But if you want really to make music, or I don't know what, if you want to incorporate this in your workflow, if you make music for media, if it's movies or commercials, and you want to incorporate the modular, then I really recommend take it step by step. There is no magic trail you can take and you reach all of a sudden you are Richard Divine or something like this. That's it. You have to take it step by step. And the most important thing, of course, is try to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, then it's not worth it.
Yeah, right. So what's the point, right?
It's not worth it, yeah. And that's it.
And that's part of what will make VCV Rack more accessible, I think, to a lot of different people is through learning the basics and just starting it step by step. Because right now I feel like VCV is one of those platforms where either you get it or you don't, but a lot of people are sort of intimidated by it because it is so wide open. There's so many different possibilities, and narrowing things down just to the absolute basics, learning how to use an envelope, learning how to use an LFO, learning what voltage, is and what it can do. Yeah.
And this no one can do for you. I mean, never mind how many videos you watch. No one can do this for you. You have to sit down and you have to go through this process. But I don't know. For me, it was really fun. I know 1,000 other people that really enjoy this. And they are really sucked into this world of modular. And from VCV Rack, it's a slippery slope to hardware. And when you start with hardware, that's it. I mean, you don't have money anymore for anything. You don't go out. You just stay at home and spend money on patch cables. So
yeah, that's my best advice to people who want to get into modular. They say, hey, Science, I want to get into modular. I say, stop. That's it. Just stop right where you are.
Just stop.
It's like smoking. Smoking. Never start. Don't start with it.
Yeah.
It's really it's definitely a slippery slope. But it means also that it's really fun. I mean, I guess it's also something. It's not for nothing that people get addicted to this so quickly.
Yeah.
It's definitely a conversation starter. Someone comes to your house and they see this huge hardware rack, right? This whole modular system. And they're like, what is that? You're like, I'm glad you asked. Sit down. Let's talk. You know what I mean? I'm sure that can happen.
So where do you see yourself going in the future? And we've gotten a glimpse of the coffee table book. The cookbook is already in existence. You have the Patreon. You have the channel. Where is Omri Cohen? What does the future of Omri Cohen look like in, say, 5 to 10 years? What do you want to do?
I hope to continue working with VCV Rec. I mean, if it's up to me, I will continue. I don't know what will happen in the future, but I dive deeper into Bitwig also. I continue making music. I have courses also online about VCV Rec, about Modular, about patching ideas, about techniques, about learning everything. I hope to release more courses. I'm already working on it. And just continuing what I do. I hope I back then I used to live stream every week. And life is life, and life happens.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I stopped streaming for a while, but I really hope to come back streaming. It was so much fun. Really, it's just a way to blow off some steam and just relax and build a patch, not worrying about making video, recording, editing, and stuff like this. You just have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And that's it. I also work, I just finished working on another module, collaborated on another module for VCV Rec. There are a few modules out there already. This one is called the ARPSEC. It's an arpeggiator module with 4 different sequences. There's one sequence it's available for free, by the way. And the developer is called Vox Glitch. So if you download the collection of Vox Glitch, you should have it. It's an arpeggiator module. So you feed a chord into it and it will arpeggiate the chord, but it has 4 sequences. It has one sequence for gate length with probability per step and also with cycles per step, which is a sort of an electron thing, I guess.
Yeah.
So like you can have one step happen every 2 times or 2 cycles or every 4 cycles or 6 cycles or whatever. It has another sequence for pitch. So you can offset the pitch up and down again with probability and with cycles. So you can have every 4th cycle, one step will be an octave up, for example. Each sequence also you can change the length and starting point. So you can have the gate sequence with 7 steps, the pitch sequence with 12 steps and so on. And there are 2 modulation sequences, again with probability and with cycles. So you take a chord basically and you convert it into a interesting, full of movement sequence. So it's really interesting module. More modules. The last one was a delay module that was inspired by hardware delay modules. So it's a delay that is also a looper basically. So you can freeze the delay and then scan through the loop. And you can change also the delay time, which will change the sort of a granular thing, which will change the scanning size. It has reverse and all of the built-in filter, also built-in ducking, so you can duck the delay with your signal or with external signals, all sorts of different things.
The Prince of Perception you're talking about.
Yes, the Prince of Perception. Or Prism of Perception, which is the stereo one with a bit more features. Yeah.
Yes.
And then there is of course, the Fungi-inspired collection that I worked on with PathSet.
Yes.
Of course. The main module is Panther Cap, which is a type of mushroom that is quite fun, or funny. Let's say it's not fun, but it's funny. And it's basically a granular looper and sampler. So you can sample things, you can pitch shift them without changing the speed, you can change the speed without changing the pitch, and so on and so forth, with lots of interesting features. Again, also there, if you are familiar with a hardware module called Morphogene for make noise.
Yes.
So something similar to inspired mostly. It's not really similar, but it's inspired by that you can shift and you can move around inside of the loop. Another module there in this collection is called Truffles, which is also a type of mushroom. Basically, it allows you to load samples, different slots of samples, and then chop them and play the chops in different ways. And each chop has also pitch and send and return, so you can have just one slice go to a delay and different slice go to distortion and stuff like this. And another one is called Hi-Fi, of course, which is a module that is mostly made for live performance looping. So not live, I mean, it has loopers, 6 loopers that are fixed in time. There is one longer, one micro, like a second, I believe it is, one pitch shifting and one stuttering. So it will chop like a sort of a beat repeat type of thing. And it's meant for live playing. So for example, if you can imagine playing the piano or the guitar, you're always playing, it's always recording, it has probability, it can cross record, so you can record one looper into another and create a mycelial network of loopers. Yes, that are just always recording, and it's really fun. And another module that it's also available for free, it's called Patchmaster. This is for MindMeld. I work together with MindMeld, that it basically allows you to build an interface in VCV Rec. So there are many times that I build sorts of different synths, like the O-Coast I built in VCV Rec, or the Moog, how is it called, the Subharmonicon. And I really wanted an interface for it, I wanted to have like the knobs and the sequences without going through the modules and the clutter of the patch cables and this. So you have the module that you can chain, and you can map to different things in VCV Rec, and you have buttons, you have knobs, you have sliders that you can select and really build an interface. And it's also great as a macro controller. So if you want one knob to control multiple things, you can also do this interesting stuff. Really, MindMeld did an amazing work there.
They are an amazing developer, and they did ShapeMaster Pro.
ShapeMaster, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're just such a great developer. Shout out to MindMeld.
Yeah.
Well, wow, this has been such a fascinating interview. Honestly, I've really gotten to know you a lot better. I think everybody who knows Omri Cohen now has a better understanding of the man himself. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for
It's been
me,
wonderful. I've really enjoyed this.
It was great fun.
Anything you'd like to plug at the end here? Any links or anything you're working on that you'd like to let everybody know about?
Yeah, but just the same old music, videos. Go check out my main channel, Omri Cohen, for VCV Rec stuff and modular experiments. There's Modular Fungi for music only, mostly with hardware. And then there's the Bitwig Mycelium, which is my explorations with the grid in Bitwig, which is also quite fun.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me,
you spending some time with us here.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers.
If you're interested in supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the Signs of Life and John Audio channels on YouTube. The link for our channels is down below in the description and in the show notes. For the video version of this show, please subscribe to the Harmonic Horizons YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest episodes. For bonus content, including additional podcast material, head over to the Signs of Life Patreon page. Paid members get access to Beyond the Horizon, our new series of extended conversations with our guests, as well as several other benefits such as early access to all of his videos, exclusive ambient tutorials, over 100 preset packs for various synthesizers, one-on-one coaching for ambient and electronic music, and tons more. If you'd like to support John Audio and the work he does, head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. You can also check out his Gumroad page for a selection of free and paid preset packs. Finally, he has a Patreon page where subscribers get access to additional content, such as exclusive music, presets for various synths such as Pigments and Diva, specialized courses, and more. Harmonic Horizons is hosted on Buzzsprout and is now available on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast directories. If you'd like to reach out to us or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact us at harmonichorizonspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.